Hey guys, Frosty Knives here, back with another EU book review. And today we are on the fourth and final book of the Coruscant Night series. We are on The Last Jedi by Michael Reeves, Final Adventures of Jax Pavan, I-5, and Den Dur to wrap up this four-book series of their exploits. So what has been going on in this book? This is the longest book of all of the series. This book was 460 pages long, and quite honestly, the story could have been told in half that time. So, in this book, after all of the events of the last three of what have happened, Jax and company decide to finally leave Coruscant. So they have decided to move the leader of Whiplash, Yimin, off of Coruscant to their secret base on Dantooine. And that's how the book starts out. They are on their way to Dantooine, and halfway there, they get ambushed. They get ambushed by Vader and a squad of Imperials. In the ambush, Yimin gets captured. Larenth gets killed. Their ship explodes and gets destroyed. And Jax and Den and I-5. Oh, and I-5 gets blown up. So all that's left of him after the end of this battle is ahead. And so Den and I-5 and Jax escape from the clutches of Vader and his company. And now they have to decide what to do. And this puts Jax on a very single-minded purpose for the rest of the book, where he feels he has to rescue Yimin from Vader at all costs, because he cannot let the leader of the resistance movement on Coruscant be captured by the Imperials, be interrogated by the Inquisitors, and by Vader, and by the Emperor. He also feels really bad that he let Yimin get captured, and that Larenth died all on his watch. And so he becomes this single-minded purpose where he is going to rescue Yimin no matter what. And that is the majority of the book. There is about 200 pages in this book of him trying to find Yimin. Where is he being held? How can they capture him? How is he going to do it? And pretty much Jax going off on his own to rescue the leader of Whiplash. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Tudin Sal is there, and he's still going to go ahead with his plan to assassinate Palpatine. Now that Jax Pavan is off planet, and Yimin is off planet, or is captured, Tudin Sal feels this is the best time to attack and try to assassinate Palpatine and take down the head of the Empire. And even though everybody is telling him, don't do it, it's a trap, and it's very obviously a trap, and we know it's a trap, he doesn't listen to anybody, and he goes ahead with this plan anyway. And he sends the majority of the remaining members of Whiplash, that's on Coruscant, after the Emperor, who is in his villa on Coruscant, who is in his private villa, and of course he's surrounded by stormtroopers and protection, but he sends him anyway. And as we expect, it was a trap, and the majority of Whiplash gets killed. So in one brilliant stroke, 95% of the resistance movement on Coruscant is crushed. Except for Tudin Sal, because he's not in the front lines, right? He sent the people, but he didn't go after himself. He eventually does kill himself. So at the end of this debacle, the only people from Whiplash who are left are Pol House, the prefect who had been helping them for all these books, and Sheen Mafine, who I believe is some type of opera singer. Both of them were on the command board. They were part of the people in charge of Whiplash and making the decisions. They're the only two who survive. So, in effect, the Whiplash movement, the resistance movement on Coruscant, has been destroyed. Emperor and Vader got what they wanted. Now they're going to try to use Yimin's knowledge to find out where the other pockets of resistance are in the galaxy, so they can crush that as well, which is why Jax is trying desperately to find out where Yimin is. There is a rather humorous subplot that's going through the book. Because I-5's body was destroyed at the very beginning and he's just a head now, he has developed a way to transfer his consciousness into other droid bodies, or what he calls chassis. And so he does this. At one point in the book, he's a pit droid. At another part in the book, he's got about 3 bodies. He's got a pit droid body. He's got a modified I-5YQ body with an assassin arm. And he's got an R2 unit that he bounces in between through for most of the book. Until finally, at the very end, he transfers his consciousness into a human replicant droid. So by the end of the book, I-5 is now as close to human as he could possibly get. He's in a human replicant droid, which is still a droid, but it has synth flesh on it. And it looks extremely human, so by the end of the book, I-5 has achieved almost humanity at this point. So that's an interesting sub-thread that went through all the book. And now we have Jax, right? Jax trying to figure out how to rescue Yimin. They figure out where he is. He's being held on Kentaro Station, which is an Imperial base that is built literally inside an asteroid. It's inside an asteroid belt. It's heavily fortified. There are Inquisitors there, Stormtroopers there, Vader's there. There's patrol ships there. How are they going to get him out? He does attempt to make an attempt to get in there. That attempt is repelled. So now he has to figure out, what am I going to do? Well, he's still carrying around this Sith Holocron. And he can't seem to open it on his own. So he needs somebody with sort of a dark side aura to do it. What he actually needs is, he finds out that the Sith Holocron can't be opened without dark side energy and a sacrifice of blood. Preferably from a dark side user. And he doesn't know how to open it, so he goes to Dathomir. He goes to the witches of Dathomir to try to help him open up this Sith Holocron. With the knowledge, and they agree to it, with the knowledge that when it's all said and done, he comes back to Dathomir so they can remove the dark side knowledge from him so that he's not tempted to use it. And he agrees to that. So he goes to Dathomir and he opens up the Sith Holocron. He finds out it is Darth Ramage's Holocron, and he was a Sith who was trying to manipulate time, trying to figure out if he can manipulate time. He absorbs all of the knowledge from the Holocron, and he learns how to make force projections. He learns how to make force projections of himself. He also learns how to make force projections and use them as camouflage. So, according to this book, anyway, at least hinted at, the ability to make force projections of yourself or of other people or of camouflage is a dark side power. I guess nobody told Luke that in the movie, but we'll talk about the light and dark later on as people are trying to wrestle with whether or not there's even a light side and a dark side to the Force. But right now, once he absorbs the knowledge from the Holocron, Jax has learned how to make force projections. And so he uses this to go to the station to rescue Yimin. And that's how the book ends. He goes to Kentaro Station. Den Dur is there, goes there as well. I-5 goes there as well. And Sasha Swiftbird, who is a member of the Top Raran resistance movement, goes with him. And they go to rescue Yimin from Vader. They wind up rescuing Yimin. There is a final confrontation with Jax and Vader. At which point, Jax is using the projections to try to fool Vader. It's not really a fight per se because Jax knows he can't beat him. It's more of a let me see if I can run from you kind of battle. And then at the end of the book, he went to Kentaro Station on a Jedi Aether Sprite, a Jedi ship that he kind of stole. He winds up blowing that up to get away from Vader. And he does. So at the end of the book, they have rescued Yemen. Jax and Dender and I-5 and Sasha have joined forces again. He's come back because he was solo this whole book. And Yemen has been rescued, and they now join forces, I guess, with the Far Rangers, who are the Top Rarin resistance movement, because the one on Coruscant is dead. So we don't really know what happens sort of at the end. We know that he gets away from Vader. Vader, I guess, at this point just stops chasing Jax. I mean, Jax doesn't have the holocron anymore. He doesn't have the pyronium anymore. He doesn't have anything that he had. So I guess Vader is going to assume that Jax is dead. And then at the end of the book, they have joined this other resistance cell. I-5 is now a human replicant droid, and I guess they just sort of fade away into obscurity because nothing much is said about them after these 4 books. That's the plot, mostly. That's the plot and the plot points of this book. Now let's talk about whether or not I like the book and whether or not I liked the series. Did I like this book? Well, I can tell you that it was better than the last one. But in all fairness, it doesn't take much to be better than the last one, since the last one I rated as a legendary turd. So, while this was better than a legendary turd, it wasn't the greatest. I gave it a 2 on Goodreads. It was a slog. It was bloated. It was 460 pages. It could have been told in about 150 to 200 pages less. Felt like there was a little filler. I had no real desire to read it. I sort of had to force myself to finish it because there was not a lot of action or really of anything going on in this book. And I feel like they could have told this story in way less pages, considering the fact that the Coruscant Nights books, each of them were themselves under 300 pages for the first 3. And now we've got this 460-page monster that could have been under 300 pages. But it wasn't. And it dragged. And it felt like a chore to read. And it felt like a slog. The series overall has some good ideas, but the execution is bad. The pacing is bad. The first book was good, but then they just went downhill all the way from there. And even though I rate this one better than the last, it was still really difficult to get through. And I don't know why that is. I have some ideas. I mean, we're reading this book right off the heels of the Ferris Olin books, right, of the Jude Watson books. And both of these stories are very similar. They're about what people think are the Last Jedi, and they're both about Jedi who have extraordinary powers and who escape death constantly, and who are trying to go after Vader and trying to go after the Empire. So both of the series felt very similar, and so reading them back to back may have been a bit of a chore on me because they did feel so similar. If you were to read one or the other, you might not have the same opinion I do, but reading both series at the same time made it feel like a bit of a drag. So overall, I am glad that this series is over. This is not a series I think I would read. This is not a series I think I would reread a lot or reread often, or if at all. Like I said, it was interesting. I do like the character of Jax. I prefer Jax over Ferris. And I do like the characters of I-5, and I do like the characters of... I like the characters in the book. But the story in the book, the plotting in the book, the pacing in the book, the filler in the book overshadowed, I think, all the good parts of the characters. The characters were good. The characters were solid. They were rather well fleshed out. It's just they were stuck in a pedantic story, and that's what really made this feel like a slog. I feel that it could have been trimmed down. Maybe this could have been, a 3-book series if they had taken this book and the last book, maybe trimmed it up, combined it. I don't know what they could have done, but it just felt too much. Too many near misses, too many overpowered people, too many near escapes, too much luck on their side. It just felt, too much like coincidence and things just conveniently happening. So I give this a 2. I wouldn't recommend reading it, and I wouldn't recommend reading the Coruscant Nights series. And I'm just really glad that this part of the journey is over, because I feel like we hit a patch of books that just sort of slowed down the reading. I was having Clone Wars flashbacks where I was like, okay, where we hit that patch of Clone Wars books in the last season where it just felt like a slog. This is where I am again, feeling like, okay, I got through this mire, this quicksand, I got through this slog. Now I can get on to more interesting things. So I wouldn't read it. I wouldn't read the series. If you're doing what we're doing and you're reading them in chronological order, then you're going to need to read it. But I wouldn't. It's not one that I would recommend, simply because it just felt like work. And reading a Star Wars book should not feel like work. It should feel like an enjoyment. So that being said, where are we going next? Well, where we're going next is where I think things are going to start to pick up. The next book that we're going to read, now that all of this has been done and put to the side, the next book that we're going to read is book 1 in A.C. Crispin's Han Solo origin story, and that's Paradise Snare. We are finally at the part in the EU reads where we're going to start talking about the original heroes. We're going to start talking about Han. We're going to start talking about Lando. We're going to start talking about their backstory, some of their adventures before they join up with the rebels. So we're finally going to start to see heroes and people that are familiar to us and that we may be more interested in. So, if you are interested in this is where things are going to pick up. We've got a Han Solo trilogy to read. We've got a Lando trilogy to read. And then we've got another Han Solo trilogy to read of his early works. And then a few more books, and then we will finally get to the original trilogy material. So this is where I started my original journey of reading the EU books. This is the book that I started with. I started with the Han Solo origin story. And from what I remember, I really enjoyed this. So I'm really excited to get back into these books and to learn about Han's younger years. So if you are interested in the Han Solo story, if you're interested in Han, how he gets the Falcon, how he meets Chewbacca, what he does before that fateful day in Mos Eisley Cantina, this is where we're going to start that. This is where we are going to start picking up the threads of books that will eventually lead us to the original trilogy. So guys, that is my review of Last Jedi, Michael Reeves' bloated book. Did you read the book? Did you read the Coruscant Night books? Did you like them? If you liked them, tell me why you liked them, what you thought of them. And tell me if you're looking forward to getting into the Han Solo stuff, because I'm really looking forward to getting into that as well. So guys, that is my review. Thanks for watching the video. As always, if you like the review, give it a thumbs up, give it a share it around, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell those people that you just feel like they're just slogging through life. And until next time, thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and I will see you in the next video.